it might be time to go. And, there is a lot of nobility in staying and fighting the good fight and trying to make things work and trying to overcome oppression on the grounds. But I think as Black folks, and in my case, as Black queer folks, we also need to understand that we have options outside of the US. And as long as we're operating with good ethics and not displacing communities and going the legal route, I believe specifically at this point, when we are overcoming racism in a potentially fascist state that we are living in, I think it is time that we explore other options. And in this video, I want to talk about what those other options look like, specifically in countries like Mexico. And I also want to talk about my own journey of exploring moving out of the country and what it has been like for me. And hopefully you walk away from this video with knowledge that you do not have to stay and fight if your life is on the line. You can leave. There are other options for you, and it is okay to want to explore a life beyond oppression. So to start, let's talk about reasons why Black queer people have every right to leave an oppressive state. So according to translegislation.com, in 2025, there was a total of 1,020 anti-trans bills that were passed across the country. The bills included various categories covering healthcare, adoption, marriage, education, and more. And there are plans in 2026 to not only put those bills into action, but they're also continuing to roll back the rights of trans folks, queer folks, and people of color. And to put it quite simply, America is in a very scary period of regression. If you turn on the news every day, you can see this taking place in action. For example, just recently, ICE just took the life of a woman who was trying to drive away in her car. ICE has been doing raids all over the US, and as Black folks, we are not exempt from that. They raided Black communities in Chicago. They have been taking people and putting them in captivity just because they might possibly look like they're not from here, just because of the color of their skin. And, it's a thing where we see things on TV, but since it's not happening in our backyard, we feel like we are far removed from it. But trigger warning, this is happening in our backyard. This is happening down the street. I'm in Houston, Texas. They're raiding places 10 miles away from me. And with the way things are going, it would not be a distant reality if they were to knock on your front door. And that is a very, very scary mindset to have as a person of color living in the United States, trying to get up every day, go to work, and put food on the table. And about putting food on the table, we are arguably, but not because people feel it, we are arguably in a state of recession. Unemployment is the highest it's been since the pandemic. I think the current stats are 8.3%, and that number disproportionately affects Black folks, it affects Black women, and it affects Black queer and trans people. In my own personal life, I have been going on interviews for the past 2-3 years, and I have not found any full-time job. The jobs that I used to be able to get, which would be gig work, brand ambassador work, one-off gigs, those are now harder to get. And right now I am struggling to make ends meet, and I'm doing fractional work, and I am doing freelance work and trying to start my own business, which is a hustle by itself. And it is not a sustainable system to be in. It is very destabilizing. And not only for me, for the people in my community. I'm not the only one that's dealing with this. There are so many amazing, talented, educated people that I personally know who cannot find work or who have just gotten laid off. And so on top of that, we also have to worry about ICE coming and knocking on our door. It is starting to get ridiculous. And we have to have the courage to say enough is enough. And if that looks like leaving, and we have that legal option and we have that legal right, then I think it requires courage to do it. And I think it's an avenue that should be explored. Now, my own situation, I had moved to Mexico City a few years back during a huge time of civil unrest. It was the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was in Houston, Texas. I remember I had just left a George Floyd funeral because they had a public showing in Houston, Texas. And I just left like, this is the reality of this country. And I had to do something to find a sense of safety and a sense of peace. And if that means leaving the US, then I gotta go. Bye. And so while I was in Mexico City, it was extremely scary. Of course, I didn't know anybody, and I am learning Spanish, but my Spanish is nowhere near where it needs to be, but I'm working to improve it every day. But I was able to move to Mexico City legally with temporary residency, and I've really dedicated myself to trying to find a way to support the queer community in Mexico City. It became something that I got deeply involved in, and I found myself being given opportunities that were life-changing. I was a part of the team that started a very popular third space in Mexico City called Revolta Queer House, and I got to work with some of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. I produced over 100 events there. I organized fundraisers for the trans community in Mexico. I organized fundraisers for the Haitian migrant community, which is a community that is often overlooked in Mexico City. I was able to start my own party series in Mexico City that was very intentional. It was celebrating the intersection of Black and Mexican cowboy and ranchero culture, which has a lot of historical context. And I was just able to move in a way that was intentional, but also very communal. I connected deeply with the Afro-Mexican community in Mexico City specifically, and it was life-changing and it was liberating. Sadly, my father passed away in September of 2024, which led me to move to Houston. And in Houston, while I am very proud to be from Houston, Texas, it's been extremely difficult to get any sort of footing. For the most part, I have been underemployed here, and that is not without a lack of trying. I've tried everything I could within this year to get my foot through the door, but simply because of my identity and my lack of resources and infrastructure wise, I don't have a car in Houston, and just to get from point A to point B, it can be very destabilizing. If you don't have a car, public transportation in Houston is not where it needs to be at all. And the emotional toll that I've gone through, having to rely on friends to support me, and, you know, I have a lot of people who care about me here, but also a lot of people who have their own issues and they don't want to have to deal with anything else because they're trying to get ahead. It's not a communal experience being here, and especially being here as a queer person, I face a lot of opposition just because of my point of view, how I communicate, how I present myself. I've tried to change way too much about myself when the reality is this environment needs to change. The United States is an environment that is simply not supportive of queer people of color in the way that it needs to be. We have done so much for this country. We have done so much for the South. We have done so much for Houston, Texas, that there should be more avenues for employment, advancement, opportunity in ways that aren't extremely difficult to navigate, and also in ways that don't require access to capital, in ways that do not require, rich parents like that I do not have. And when I think about a year in Mexico City versus a year in Houston, the difference has been night and day. 1 year in Mexico City, I've made probably 50 friends. I threw over 100 events. I was able to be active in community. I was able to flourish in ways that were extremely eye-opening and life-changing. And 1 year in Houston, I joined a gym. I can say that has been my biggest accomplishment, and I'm knocked doors down in other ways. You know, I'm trying to be funny. I also was able to perform at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, which was very cool. But you know what I mean? Like, I just don't feel welcomed here. I don't feel safe, and I feel it is unsustainable to keep pretending like it is okay. I have the opportunity to get my permanent residency visa in Mexico City. It has been a 4-year process to get it. I did my due diligence and did my research and figured out how to get temporary residency 4 years back because I wanted to move to Mexico City with intention. I didn't want to just fly in and fly out as a tourist. I wanted to really understand the environment and the culture, and I felt like that was necessary. And I'm coming up on the opportunity to get my permanent residency, but the thing is it is very expensive now to do it, and I just feel like if I let this pass me by, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Because having permanent residency means having legal protection to live in Mexico. It means being able to continue to be involved with the communities that I am a part of. It means always having a way to escape an increasingly anti-queer and anti-trans environment in the United States. And I truly believe it will have a generational impact on my life. Now, I understand that it is a privilege for me to cross borders, but I understand gentrification because I've experienced it in the US. For example, living in Houston, I can't afford a place to live. I have to stay with family and friends because the prices have risen so much. But not to make it about me, I am going to Mexico with care and intention, and I am doing everything in my power to move there legally. Permanent residency means having to pay taxes and obey immigration laws. And I am not like a tech worker who makes $200,000 a year, can buy up properties, party, and leave. I have contributed to the culture. I have supported the queer community there, and it has been documented, and I am not going there to displace. I would be going there to continue doing important work and living a life in a way that doesn't feel like, and I'm getting emotional, it's hard. I just want to wake up somewhere and know that I can survive, and I want to wake up somewhere and know that there is a future for me. I want to wake up somewhere and not be insecure about food. I want to wake up somewhere and not be insecure about housing. And I don't want to wake up feeling like the government is hunting me down. I think that is a universal thing that anybody can understand. And I have the opportunity to do that in Mexico. And it's requiring me to show up for myself and to not be afraid to take it. So I have started a GoFundMe to raise the funds required to actually go to Mexico City to pay for the visa, secure the appointment, pay for the legal fees, and cover housing for the time period that I have to be there. If you want to support, my link is in the bio. Please amplify because I only have like 10 days to raise the funds and anything helps. And I just want to motivate anyone watching this that it is okay to want to live a life where freedom and respect is not an afterthought. It is okay to leave environments that are not serving you. And if it takes starting a GoFundMe, if it takes making noise on social media, if it takes protesting, whatever it takes to stabilize yourself in a very crazy world, don't be afraid to have courage and make it happen. So if you're considering options outside the US, you're not alone. Because we're all starting to get in a space where it's like, okay, girl, it might be time to go. And sometimes leaving oppression behind is the strongest thing that you can do for your survival.